Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Today we are again truly blessed to have with us Dr. Madhusudan Patel. Namaste.
Namaste, Narad.
We have to get into some of these difficult and contentious areas of this COVID treatment. And I would like you to discuss things about masks, social distancing,
Vaccination.
lockdowns, and then perhaps we could go into Ayurveda and homeopathy briefly.
Sure.
So you can give your experiences in those areas also.
To start with, I beg humanity not to be fanatical. And when I mean fanatical, also not to be spiritually fanatical. I think it is fanaticism if a patient comes to me and says, oh, because I believe in the divine, I believe in Sri Krishna, or I believe in the mother in Aurobindo, I'll be protected. I don't need masks, I don't need vaccination, I don't need medication. This is fanaticism. Especially when they say that, no, I will not take this medication, these pharmaceutical medications and all that. So why? So this is done by laboratories and by big concerns or big consortiums and concerns. This is big business and all that. I said, my God, you think big businesses are just human? It was done by just man? There is grace of God behind that too. Everything is a creation of the divine. So I beg humanity not to be fanatical about nothing, not even about science. So even doctors who believe that only allopathic medication works in psychiatry or any other disease and so on, I think that is fanaticism. And if somebody comes to me and says that, no, I don't believe in allopathic medication, I only take homeopathy or Ayurvedic medication, I think that's fanaticism. Why is one thing divine and the other thing is not the creation of divine? So I said, look, we have to use, Narad, whatever the divine has created in order to overcome obstacles. And here, this is a health obstacle, the COVID-19 disease, and it's a very dangerous disease. So we have to not only apply the divine energy and so on, but also what the divine has created in the material world in terms of medication. And medications are not just allopathic medications that are done in laboratories, chemical laboratories and so on, but there are also medications such as homeopathy, which was developed or which came, it took its birth in Germany. It's very famous. And I think in England came the Bach flower therapy, the remedies. And then there's this Ayurvedic medicine, which is herbal medicine from India, Tibet, Nepal, and so on. And all these
Centuries ago.
Oh yes, goodness. And these, for instance, my own biological mother, she used for us as kids only Ayurvedic products. Oh yes, I was a child. Then I was taken over by the mother. And the mother told me that there is good in all these different medicine. But if something can be done with herbs, I don't see why we should take something chemical.
Mother told you this?
Yes, mother said, my child. She had told me, mon fils, le divin se trouve, the divine is in everything. It's up to you to see which particular product would help the person the best. So here comes science into play. And when you have a serious infection, if we did not have antibiotics, the world would have been destroyed. Humanity would have been destroyed. But the divine created these antibiotics. Sure, in laboratories, in Europe and United States and so on. But the divine created also before even Europe and the United States came to be in India. For instance, Ayurvedic medication. Okay? I worked for a number of years in psychiatry. And I know that in psychiatry, they do use pharmaceutical products. But I don't agree that all the time you have to. We know that in schizophrenia, if you took homeopathic products or Ayurvedic products, they can never be as efficient as products coming from the allopathic medication. Because schizophrenia is a serious illness, and it is neurological due to neurochemical disturbances. And these cannot be brought to balance through soft medication like Bach flower therapy or homeopathy or Ayurveda. But let me give you an example. I have people who say they can't sleep at night, they are very worried, they are very excited, they are full of tension. And they go to their doctor, the doctor prescribes because they can't sleep, and they are very worried and they think they are going through a depression, and the doctor says, is it depression? Gives them antidepressive drugs.
Like there is something called an eclectic approach.
Yes.
In like psychology, where it's not only the use of antibiotic medicine, but use of creativity, art therapy, narrative therapy, and I feel in something as serious as schizophrenia, the medicine take you to A to B, but B to C, you need something more. You need something of the creativity to come out.
You're talking about the right thing, because I think it's a combination of several things that can help us. It's not just one thing. Now, let me give you an example. I've had people, medical doctors. He was chief medical doctor with a thoracic surgeon of Italian origin. He was at the Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston as a chief physician there. Then in Italy, in a very prominent city, and I won't give you the name because then you can easily find out who this patient is. And he comes to me because he says that he's going through depression. And he's taking antidepressive drugs. These are pharmaceutical allopathic drugs. But these have incredible side effects. He says that it's really making him, and his wife told me, that this man who was dynamic on everything, and now he's there, very pathetic. And you can see it on his face. And these are side effects of his medication. It's not even his depression. And I told him, please get off slowly from these. And asked him, I don't know how, I think through one Ayurvedic doctor here in Pondicherry that I had met. I forget his name. I think meanwhile he has passed away. He was very, very good. And he had prescribed to patients of mine a product from the Ayurvedic medicine created by this fantastic Ayurvedic herbal therapies called Himalaya Herbals. Note the name, the mountains Himalaya Herbals, and you can find it on internet. And I'm not doing publicity because they don't even know who I am. But I think when there's a good product, it is my responsibility that the world finds out about good products that can help them. And they have a product called Mentat, M-E-N-T-A-T, Mentat. This is 100% herbal. It is not even labeled as an antidepressive or something. It has got other faculties. But this is also because of heavy pharmaceutical lobbies, that if you say it is going to help you in your depression, then you have to go through this and this procedures and this and these rules and all that, and you can't. So you just put what effect it does, that it circulates blood or oxygen in your brain and all that. It's written on the bottle. But these tablets, which are 100% herbal, he started taking that, and many of my friends, many of my patients have used this, and they said it's a miracle. There's no side effect. You don't feel drowsy. You don't feel that an upset stomach. And it's in a few days you start seeing that you feel very nice, very good. Everything is fine. And very interesting, you forget that you are depressed or that you are full of anxiety and worries. All of a sudden you find out you're cured, you're well, and you regain life. And there too, I advise that you don't abuse nothing. Not even food should be abused. Not even the prasad that you get from Mother and Aurobindo should be abused in huge quantities. Prasad is holy food, blessed by the divine, that you can take. But even if you take too much of that, it's not good. So the same thing with mentat or any other product, Ayurvedic or homeopathic, don't abuse it. And once you are not depressed anymore, you don't have any more this anxiety in you, then slowly get off the medication. Get off. And my advice is that even though I told you that it's very effective and so on, you have to take it in consultation with your treating physician. Don't do anything about medication without consulting your personal physician. He is responsible for you, and I'm responsible towards him. I owe him this responsibility that I have to warn you and tell you, please, obey the regulations and advice that your doctor gives you, because that brings about harmony between you and your doctor. You can talk to him and say, you heard from Dr. Madhusudan about this Ayurvedic product, but he has to agree that you take it or not, because I cannot tell you that, because I don't know what are your specific problems and why you're taking and what other drugs you're taking and so on. So consult it. But I'm talking about this because there are so many good products. So same thing about COVID. We have to, this social distancing is important because viruses are transmitted through contact. When you come in close contact, you can't see them. They're so small, so fine that you can't. But if you come in contact with them, then they can contaminate you and you can fall ill. So if you keep a certain distance, then you are sure that even if the person who is in front of you thinks he does not have this particular illness, he might not have the symptom, but he might carry the virus with him. This is science. Okay? And you have to understand that science has its role, regardless of whether you believe in homeopathy or spirituality. And we know this in science, that contamination comes through contact. So social distancing is this. And the mask reduces this contamination the way it works. And they've shown that on television, I'm sure in India, how it works. When you don't have a mask and when you put a mask. And then this important aspect, what I call vaccination. That if you're vaccinated, then your body creates antibodies to this particular infection.
Yet we are told that many of these are experimental vaccinations. They have not been tested on humans, but on animals. Can you address that?
I can address that. How on earth does anybody believe that responsible scientists and doctors would be so stupid, and the governments worldwide would be so stupid to become victim to such stupidity, that they say we can use these vaccines on people, and on not hundreds and thousands, but on millions of people, something that could destroy them. Which human being would have that kind of mentality? Hitler was a monster. He did something evil, he destroyed millions of people. But do you think all these politicians, all these scientists worldwide are so stupid that they would accept to administer an antibiotic, a vaccine that has not been tested adequately? My goodness, this is out of this world. I've heard the theory, last night somebody was telling me that there was a theory that these vaccines is a complot of Bill Gates, and when you take it, he transplants a microchip so that he can dominate. Are you going to believe all this kind of nonsense? Hey, stop even listening to all that. Read the Bhagavad Gita. That's far more interesting, and it'll help you beat even COVID in that sense. It gives you this inner strength to build up your immune system. And this is what it does, the spirituality really. It is not just the blessing of the divine. What does that blessing do? It creates in you a state of being that improves your immune system, your defense system. Your immune system is so high. And I can prove it to you in laboratories that you take a person from the street, we'll take a blood sample to analyze the value of his blood. Then, after his worked with me for 45 minutes, an hour, or half an hour, or whatever. Let's take again blood sample from him and then compare. And we have done this. And you see the difference. That just meeting with me and just by my giving him advice and helping him, explaining him things, I'm boosting up his self-consciousness, his inner consciousness, and this energy process, what Mother said, contaminating him with this Aurobindo and Mother's consciousness automatically illuminates and ignites in him the divinity in him. The divine is in everyone. And automatically you see the immune system better. Now you can see between spirituality and science, there is a relationship because through science I can prove the effect of spirituality or religion. I can prove through science, through neurology, the works of Sri Krishna, how he works on us when you read the Bhagavad Gita. I am not versed in Indian mythology, which is so interesting. And my brother Bhattida, he's in the ashram. He has told me so many interesting stories about Sri Krishna and all these. And I've learned so much from it. And I combine this with modern science. And I see it works. It is truly, you understand all these things better through science. But science was also created by the divine, because if he's there, he created this. So my answer to you is this. There is a lot of nonsense going around. Don't believe in everything. Use your rationale. Just say, is it possible that so many people, if I was administrating on 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people something evil, that is possible because Hitler did something evil. But worldwide, all the doctors, all the scientists, no, it's not possible. And then people come to me and say, but this vaccine, when you take, it can create COVID in you and kill you. I said, these cases are so few that the chances of you winning a multi-million-dollar lottery is bigger than you getting COVID through a vaccination. Believe it or not. It will happen. Look, crossing the street can also kill you through a car hitting you. And we are crossing the streets all the time. How many people get killed by being hit by a car? Very few. The majority cross the streets and don't get hit. So the same thing can happen with an injection. But that does not mean because the vaccine is wrong or something. There are so many factors why some people, depending on the person. For instance, if I have already certain problems in me, and I'm not aware of it, and my doctors don't know, and I take this vaccine, perhaps the combination of the vaccine and these other complications I had can create a serious health problem for me. But that is very, very rare. As I said, you will win a $1 million lottery before you get ill through a vaccination. And we have used vaccines for years and years now for different diseases and different illnesses, and we have conquered it. Without that, humanity would have been devastated.
I want to just ask you very briefly things that we discussed in those previous interviews. Your holistic healing practice.
Because it is, I love this word holistic. It is what Aurobindo and Mother called, I think, integral yoga. And integral healing is very important. And this is why I said optimum health for me, I define it as optimal physical health, biological, optimal emotional, because emotion is not biological, it is through biology it comes, but it is non-molecular, your emotions, psychological. So optimal physical health, optimal emotional health, psychological and so on, optimal economical health. I put it at the third place, even before spirituality. I put materialism, money, the energy of Lakshmi. Very important. It is through the energy of the Divine Mother Lakshmi that humanity survives and continues to grow. Behind everything, there is the power of money, the energy of Shri Ma Lakshmi. I call her Mother Lakshmi. Okay? So it is very important. It's not materialism. And in this book, I've explained what is materialism and so on. So physical health, emotional health, economical health. Then comes very important social health, that we get along with people. And then one very important aspect of health is spiritual health. And spiritual health doesn't mean that you have to be a devotee of Mother or Aurobindo or Sri Krishna. That is part of spiritual. Just loving. When you love humanity, when you love this creation, that is already for me spirituality. Love. To care for others. So, these are 5 very important. And when we talk about holistic health, and this is also, Mother said, it's very important that we look at all the various dimensions of a human body. I will give you a very simple example. Small example how the mother was. I had said it in one of my interviews. Before I left for my studies in Germany, when I initially went to Germany, I went to study sports sciences, physical education. And I was very thin, and I was very devoted to Dada, who was in charge of physical education department and all that. And through contacts from Germans who had come here and so on, sport teachers and so on, it so happened that I had the possibility that I could go. And Mother said, yes, my child, go. It'll do you good, it'll teach you discipline, the German discipline. So she didn't want me to go to America, she didn't want me to go to France or England, she said, go to Germany. Yes, she said, the German discipline and order will be very, very helpful to you. And so before I went for blessings to a lady who was like an aunt to me, but not biological, so I used to call her auntie. So I went to her for her blessings, and she says, my son, before I bless you, I want you to make me 2 promises. I said, what? She says, first, that you will not eat meat. So I knew that I'm false, but in order to please her, I said, yes, auntie, I promise you I will not eat meat. Then she said, the second is that promise me that you will not drink alcohol. I said, auntie, I promise. So she blessed me. And what I did, already I knew that after I finished with her, I'll go to the mother and ask, because I had the possibility to go to mother anytime I wanted upstairs. So I went to the mother, and mother says, yes, my child, what is it that bothers you? I said, this is what auntie demanded of me, and I told her so. What is your opinion? So you know what the mother said to me? And this is holistic medicine. Look, I come from a spiritual center. I was brought up here in the ashram, under the mother and Aurobindo. In the ashram at that time, the dining room, I think even now, was 100% vegetarian. There was no alcohol in ashram or anywhere. And in general, alcohol is not good for you in general. Okay, but now listen to this. The mother says to me, my child, you are going to study in Germany and you want to study physical education, and you are so thin, you have to eat meat.
And drink beer.
Wait a second. You have to eat meat because you need strength and energy, so eat everything they serve you. Imagine mother telling me this, and I'm coming from the ashram. Then she says, as far as alcohol goes, she says, my son, Germany makes very good beer. And she says, drink fresh beer because that also is good for your health. She says, yeah. She says, you will see it's good for you. Other alcohols, you can let it be. Strong alcohol. She said, you can let it be. Tu peux le laisser faire. Bois la bière fraîche, she says, it's good for you, for your health. And you're so thin. Now look at this. If this is not holistic medicine, this is spirituality. It is all part and particle of this divine creation, what Mother and Aurobindo have taught us. I've seen Mother wearing a golden crown. I've seen Mother wearing the most beautiful silk saris on earth. I've seen Mother always immaculate, with her makeup and everything. She was always smelling fantastic perfumes. Mother loved beauty. The mother loved aesthetics. Mother loved laughing and joking and smiling. And she was the divine mother who gave wisdom to humanity. What is this? This is holistic. And in medicine, it's very important that we use various products that help us. So if something from Ayurveda helps us, we take that. Like I said, Mentat, it has helped a lot of people. But talk with your doctors. But I'm just giving this. And Himalaya Herbal does beautiful products. Different products I hear, because it's all herbal. So use things where you can normal. So why use antibiotics when it can be done with something that is absolutely natural.
What have you found out about homeopathy? Just briefly.
Same thing. I remember as a child, the Bengalis love fish. And my best friend Robi Robi was my best friend. He came from a Bengali family here in the ashram.
I know Robi very well.
Oh.
I had 4 interviews with him.
No, you're talking of Robi Gupta.
Ganguly.
No, I'm not talking of Robi Ganguly. I'm talking of Robi Das. He had to leave ashram. He left ashram long time ago. His brothers were also asked to leave ashram, and he was my best friend. He used to work in the poultry farm. And his father was also an ashramite, and his father loved cooking. And he used to cook fish, because the Bengalis love fish. And something they love very much is chingri mach. It is shrimps. And I was so eager to try. And one day I ate chingri mach and found out that I'm allergic. I was a child. I was a small boy. I was living in the boarding. And I got an allergic shock. It was so bad, all my lips and my face was all swollen, and I went into a kind of coma. But before I went in coma, I was in the boarding. My other mates in the boarding, they saw my brother passing by on the street from the window, and they called him, my eldest brother, Chiman. He was friends with Monada. You know Monada? Oh, yeah. Kalu, Mona. Their sister, Banudi, was my brother's girlfriend. So they were both going by and said, Madhu has a health problem. So they put me in a rickshaw and took me to Monada's father. And he used to practice homeopathy. He was very, very good, this old man. He had not studied, I don't think so, in a school, but he did it. He learned it by himself and all that. So I remember I was in a kind of coma. I could hardly breathe. And then I can remember he was looking into a big book, fat book. He was going through pages. And then I remember he putting some drops in my mouth. And in no time flat, this very same night, I came back to myself and I was really passing out. And when next day I told the mother this has happened, she says, my child, very good that you went to him and he did the right thing to give you the homeopathic drops. She says, they have this divine energy in them because it's from nature. And what is interesting is, she says, parce que in homeopathy, she says, it works with energy. And it's true that if you analyze under electron microscope, for instance, these little sugar granules, the little sugar balls that they have in homeopathy, they have dynamization, they call it, D12 or D25, D50, I don't know, I don't know much about homeopathy, but I know this, that if you take a lower dynamization, let's say D25, and it doesn't work, then the homeopathy doctor gives you a more powerful, same product, but let's say D50. What is very interesting is that if you look at these dynamizations, in lower dynamization, you might find, if you look under electronic microscope, you might find 1 or 2 lost molecules from the medication, the active medication, the active ingredient of the medication from which it was made. Otherwise, it's only sugar. And the higher you go, it is 100% sugar crystals. You don't see molecule of any medication in it. So how come that there where there are no molecules of the medication, like you're not taking a tablet, which is molecular, you're taking sugar. And how come there is? Because in those sugar crystals is the energy conserved. This dynamization process, which also, as I know now, I have to study and I have to look it up. I'm sure it has to do with energetic process that they keep shaking it. It's like also, when I touch you, the energy is much stronger than when you touch the fire on which you cook, transmits heat also 20 feet away perhaps, but you don't feel it. The closer you come to the fire, you feel it. If you put your finger in the fire, you'll burn yourself. So the same thing. When you think of the divine, you already feel the energy of the divine. Once you become one with the divine consciousness, then that is the highest level of energy. And when physically the mother or Sri Aurobindo touched you. My God, look, I'm getting goose pimples just to think. So, this whole idea is what I'm trying to tell you. Your question was this holistic approach is to use everything and anything that can help you, that is workful. But use that which is the most efficient without exaggerating. So if a person comes to me and says, doctor, when I have a headache, I do like this and my headache goes away. Now, I know that there is no proof in science that if you do this, there is an effect. But if it works for him, I say, good, do that. Don't take aspirin. Instead of taking a tablet, just do that, what you're doing, and your headache goes away. So, you see, this is what I mean by holistic is what works for you, take it, but don't exaggerate. So we can do something with aspirin. Why take antibiotics? Why take morphine for pain relief if an aspirin does it? And why take even an aspirin if you can go into this divine consciousness? And the mother told me, tu peux le faire. And so I have had operations done on my hand with no anesthesia. Same thing for my teeth. She says, mon fils, tu peux arrêter l'énergie à travers le processus, le procès de l'énergie, tu peux arrêter les sensations de douleur. The sensation of pain, you can cut it off. All through consciousness. So, I usually deny anesthesia. And thanks God, I have not had major operations because I'm in very good health. So the few experiences I had were minor things for injury or something, or for the teeth. And I know that the dentist would call all the girls and say, come here, he's a patient with whom I'm going to extract the tooth and all that, and he doesn't take any anesthesia. And they're absolutely amazed to see a patient who doesn't scream or shout or yell because the dentist is working. Why? Because you don't feel it. You cut it off. You detach yourself from it. And if you have this is what you call integral health, that you're in control of your health, that you can say, okay, this part of my body right now, I'm going to detach from the rest of my body so that they can work on it. And these are interesting things. This is fun. This is really living an interesting life. It's a life living with miracles that you create on yourself. And it's playful, it's enjoyable, it's these are not stunts. These are experiments of, this is what I call also experimentation with the divine energies. And that's why you should not take all these things seriously. Spirituality is something beautiful. There's a lot of humor. Sri Aurobindo, I think there's a book even with jokes from Sri Aurobindo and laughters with Sri Aurobindo. I've not read it, but I've heard about it. And I know that he was very humorous and he was also very naughty. One story I know about Amritada, that they cut off his tikki because he was a Brahmin. And they hung it in front of his bed, from his bed frame. And he woke up and he saw his tikki and he looked behind. And he got mad. He went to mother and said, look what they did. And the mother said, that's a good, it's cut off now. Now they can't cut it anymore or whatever, So mother was laughing too. So you can see Sri Aurobindo, he could be a naughty boy when he wanted to. I'm sure he was. But he had a sense of humor. He was not just this great sage and a great master. That great master could also be a child when he wanted to be. And that's the beauty of spirituality. And so I don't know why this fanaticism, you have to meditate, you have to pray. Yes, meditate, yes, pray, fine. I told you, mother told me, I told her that I don't meditate. See, this was again mother, spirituality. Everybody's meditated after the playground. Mother would sit in a chair in front of the map of India in the playground. Everybody will be sitting on the floor. And it gets dark early in India. They switch off the lights. They put music on. And everybody would meditate. But I could not meditate. And to sit with this lotus position for me was so painful even as a child on the ground. So in a minute or two maximum, my eyes would open and I'd start gazing at the stars, because in those days you could see the sky, it was not polluted right? Like right now. So you could see the stars. And I was always fascinated by the stars. And I would look at people who are meditating. So I started feeling guilty after a while because I was mother's special child and I was not meditating when mother was meditating with all these people. So I said to the mother one day, I said, Dusmer, I have a confession. And she started laughing as if she knew what the confession was. And she says, what, my child? I said, Dusmer, every evening when everybody meditates together with you and you meditate, I don't meditate. So she starts laughing and saying, what do you do? I said, Dusmer, I don't meditate. I look at the stars and I look at people's faces. I look at them and I look at the stars. She started laughing. She said, doesn't matter. You don't need to meditate. You just look at your stars as long as you don't disturb anybody. And she was laughing. She says, that's fine. She says, my child, don't meditate. You look at the stars as long as you don't disturb. So then I asked her, but can I ask you a question? She said, sure. So when I look at these people, I see they're meditating, but I see the suffering in their face. And she started laughing. And I got frustrated because she did not answer my question. She said, my child, you will understand later. Why? She says to me, my child, you know, but you will understand later. When I was a small boy, I was frustrated. I said, my goodness, she doesn't explain me why. And she says, I know, I don't know. And she says, I'll understand later. I want to know now. But mother, I did what she said. Later, when I used to come from my studies in America, and so she says, you remember you told me, because we are talking about occultism and all that. She says, it's because, and then she told me what's wrong, why you see these people that are suffering. Because they are meditating and they are going through spirituality for a very, very narrow purpose of overcoming their suffering and their daily problems. And they are not truly in harmony with the divine, and they don't become that part of the divine consciousness. So they try to go up and they're praying and they're asking. And in meditation, this is not the thing to do, she says. That you use it as a request to the divine, also subconsciously, that because you're meditating, that particular problem will go away or something. It should be unconditional when you become one with the divine. It should not be that I want to become one with the divine so that my problem with my elbow or so on, or my knee goes away. Or that this person that I love loves me because, no conditions. Just become one with the divine for the joy of being a part of this divine consciousness. And you will see how fantastic your health will be, even if you're not asking for health in your meditations and all that. Through this pure meditation, your health, and it's true, your immune system goes up. So I strongly recommend that we practice these beautiful things that Hinduism teaches, all these mythologies and all that. But I want you to understand these things, and I would love to explain how I understand, the Bhagavad Gita and the battle of Kurukshetra and what I think about Aurobindo, of Sri Krishna. Oh, by the way, can I tell you a very interesting story?
Yes, certainly.
My name Madhusudan, mother told me means, it's the name of Sri Krishna, she says to me. Because I had gone to her one day and asked her, because she had given names to 3 girls, Do, Re, Mi. So I wanted as a child also a name that she gives me. I don't want this name Madhusudan. So I go to her and I said, Dusmer, can you also give me a name? And she looks at me and she says, my child, I have to first find out what your name means. Let me think about it and I'll let you know. And as a child, I was very impatient. I'm still impatient. And I was frustrated that these girls got it immediately. They went to the mother and said, give us a name. She said, Do, Re, Mi, from the solfege. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si. And to me, she says, I have to wait. So the next day, she says, Fiston, mon fils, viens ici. She would call me either Fiston, mon fils, mon petit, ou mon enfant. Anyway, she says, I researched your name. Madhusudan is the name of Sri Krishna. And you are the spirit of Sri Krishna. And so you have to keep this name. It means vainqueur, she says. She used the word vainqueur. Now, in those days, we were children. I was learning French from the mother. To me, vain is 20 in French. And cœur is heart. So I was thinking to myself, she's telling me this, and I'm thinking to myself, what a stupid name. 20 hearts. What is so great about it? But she says, es-tu l'esprit de Shri Krishna? Tu es vainqueur. I said, I'm 20 hearts? Anyway, later I found out vainqueur in French means the vincitore, the conqueror.
Yes, exactly.
You know, the conqueror. And she had explained to me that, you see, my son, you are the spirit of Sri Krishna, you are the conqueror. You will never run away from obstacles. You will overcome them. You have to conquer them. And so this is why she didn't want to change my name. Its name is Sri Krishna. And what is interesting, I came on the 30th of this month, August, and these devotees of Mother and Aurobindo called me extra to say, they call me Madhuji. Say, Madhuji, the 30th of August that you are coming to India for this, giving seminars and for this book and all that, is very ominous because it's the birthday of Sri Krishna. And I said, my God, look at it. Everything started with Narad and Elisha with an interview, and now I find out that Sri Krishna's birthday is on the day I came here, and I've come for the work of Mother and Aurobindo through the energy of Sri Krishna. And Mother said, mon fils, tu es l'esprit de Sri Krishna. As a child, it didn't mean much to me, but she says it, okay. But then later she explained me, and now I'm realizing, and these people are explaining me even more, and Indian mythology is very, very interesting. Bhattida has told me very interesting episodes on Sri Krishna. So this is all because Narad does these interviews, and thousands of people see these interviews, but I want them to benefit from these interviews. All these people who have talked with him have so much to give you, so much to teach you, knowledge to make your life a beautiful, interesting life, and to make this adventure of spirituality a joyous and a divine adventure of the spirit. L'aventure de la conscience, la mère me disait, is adventure of your consciousness.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Namaste. And we will
Namaste.
look forward to seeing you again. How long are you staying in the ashram?
I'm leaving today exactly at 12 o'clock.
Ah, so it was intended that
Yes.
you should meet and you should speak to the people about your life and your work. And I think they will derive so much from it.
Well, as long as it really makes their life a beautiful life like my life, the life that Mother and Aurobindo gave me, is this life that you people also they've given. So become a part of their spirit and enjoy, be happy. That is what life is for, to be happy. And spirituality is the path to total and permanent happiness.
Namaste.
Namaste.